In today's video, I want to share with you how you can create this dashboard for your own purposes. In this case, I'm going to show an example of a medical distributor company sales dashboard that has their logo over here, their specific slicers, timeline, their one-liner KPIs over here, the metric for the country itself, charts of different types, and a nice design. Stick around if you want to learn how to do that. Everything here is covered step by step, all the information. So pay attention. Here we go.
Database with real information. I'm going to populate this with fake information. How did I do that? Just went over here to ChatGPT and asked him to create an Excel format 5 fake medical company names. Okay, I got those names. Control C, Control V, I got the names. Let's say 3 are in the US, 1 is in Canada, and 1 is in Brazil. These are going to be our customers. For item name, on the same level, Excel format, fake item number, and item type. 20 items. Replace with item description. Okay, so that's better. So now I have 20 item names and item types. And on purpose, I want the ranges to be different so I could have a mix. And the last thing that I want is Excel format, fake supplier name, fake medical supplier name, 8 examples. So let's say we have eight suppliers, and they seem kind of similar, the names, or they're looking okay. Health link, health core, alright. So let's take those. Sorry, back to here. And that's the end of what we need from ChatGPT. Now I will just move this. I will just replicate everything, so in this way to the first row, and now this to the first row, and I can drag this for, let's say, I don't know, like 15 something hundred lines. That should be good enough for a lot of data. Now, the second part of building this database is having dates, and we're going to use quantity sold in units, quantity sold in dollars, the cost, and the profit. And I want to randomize this, so I built this small table for the randomization. The date range will vary between January 1st, 21 and 8th of August, 23. Or you know what, let's do it. What's the last day of July? 31st. So let's do it 31st of July. Just so it's always between the months. The quantity, the sold, and the cost. It's not really percentage, but and the formulas I'm using are round between. So round between returns a number, an integer number between two ranges that you give them, the top and bottom. So you see this is giving us the number. The quantity sold, I'm just going to multiply that by the quantity sold in units times, let's say, price per unit. And the cost, I'm going to use a percentage of the sold. So it's a round between those two numbers divided by 100, giving us a percentage times the quantity sold, and the profit is that minus that. Take all this, too much. Take all this, double click all the way down, and we have a database. I'm going to take this, control, why is it starting in A? Okay. Taking this, control C, and control V by value. So everything is now by value, so it doesn't change. And you can see sometimes I have a profit, sometimes I have a loss, and different ranges, different suppliers, everything, it's a mix. So it's going to be a nice mix. So that's number one. I have the database that I'm going to use. Then I'm going to basically start generating my reports. And I'm going to use pivot tables and some tricks, but mostly pivot tables. So I'm going to mark all of this entire range. Click on Insert, Pivot Table, and for example I have a sheet that I call Pivots, which is now empty because we're building this together. And I'm just going to create a pivot table. And for example, one of the reports that I like to use is monthly sales report. So I'm going to have the date over here. And you see it automatically groups it by something. And in this case by year, and I want year month. So I'm going to right click on the date, group, switch it over to months years. And now I have a month year layout. And here I want to add the total quantity sold in units and the profit for that month. So let's move this. Quantity sold, I want this to be a number with a separator, and the profit I want to change to a dollar sign. Alright, that looks better. Now I want to put this in a in the dashboard eventually as a chart, not as a table, which is always better to view. So I'm just going to click somewhere on my pivot table, click on Insert, click on Recommended Chart, and I'm going to select Combo because I want two accesses. I want one access for the quantity sold and one access for the sum of profit. Because otherwise, if it's the same access, you see it gives me basically not a very good view, as the two axes are very different. One's in dollars, one's in units. And as you can imagine, that is very different for most of the businesses. Most businesses don't sell 1 unit for $1 or make $1 profit, hopefully. So I'm going to use that for secondary access, and I'm going to use line with markers. Okay, you have a preview how it's going to look, and go ahead and click on OK. And what I always like to do first off is take out all of the field buttons, all of those. You can use the pivot table chart and do all these things. I don't like to use it here. I think it's takes a lot of real estate from us, so I like to hide them. I like to click on the design and take the legend all the way to the bottom. I like to add a chart title on top. I like to have the chart title referencing the data, so I'm going to call this year, month, sales, and profit. For example, we can change that later. I'm right clicking on the chart title all over to the FX line equals this. Now this is going to be connected, so if I make a change here, it will change automatically. It's very nice. And also, if you don't remember where your data is coming from, you can always see that this is where this is coming from. Now you see the legend is very pivot table text, sum of quantity sold. what I like to do, I just go over here and I remove the sum of, but if I just do that, I get this message because I already have a field like that. So what I always do is I just leave a space. Visually it looks the same, but it lets me keep that same name. So just a shorter name looks more visible. And usually in these kinds of things, what I like to do, I like to right click on Format Data Series for that second one and go over to the line, just remove the line. And that way I have a, let's say, just an icon for the profit. So it looks a bit better visually, but it's up to you. You can either keep it or use that as an idea for you. So to begin with, we're pretty much done. The last thing I want to do with my charts is I right click here on the pivot chart options. Sorry, on format, where is it? Display. Alright, I'll look for it later. What I want to do is basically I will eventually drag the chart over here to the format chart. Right, it's going to be over here, I think. Yeah, I'm looking for that one, the properties. I want to switch this to don't move or size with cells. Now what this does is protects your chart. So if you make changes, it doesn't shift. If I take that out and I move it, every time someone changes the dimensions, it's gonna ruin your chart. So it's always recommended, and at least from my perspective, if you work with charts or shapes or things like that, slicers, everything, you by default select that. That way whenever you move things around, it won't change. So I'm just going to put that here for now, and we'll continue working with that later. So that was the first chart. Now for example, we can create another chart. I'm sorry, you know what, let's take this one. Let's say I want another KPI. I just want to see the total profit, total sold, totals. So now in this case, I go to show field list and I take out the years and I take out the months. So I have basically the total quantity sold, total profit, and we can add like sum of quantity sold. Again, I want to change that to counting. Change the name. And so for example, I could have this as, you know, like 3 metrics that I always see, or just add more. You can also have another profit. What is it? This one, but this time instead of sum, I want to show average. And let's go ahead and change that to accounting as well. And let's move that all the way to down. So you could have the total profit, but also the average of profit per line. Sometimes that's also interesting. And now what I want to do is, you could use this as a table, but that's kind of not clean. So what I like to do is just create sort of icons with the value themselves. So we could call these one-liner KPIs, because that's what they are. And what I did here is I created in the layout a size that I'm going to use throughout the dashboard, not a size but a shape, sorry, that I'm going to use throughout the dashboard, and built it very simply. Click on Insert, Illustrations, Shapes. I took the rectangle rounded corners. Okay. I chose the navy blue color. What's it called? Dark blue accent, that one. And then I just added, like to use this sidebar. I used some of the effects. So I used glow, for example. I used glow and just change the color to gray. And of course you can do it bigger or smaller, or like this, whatever works for you. And I also used soft edges. You can play with the points and eventually you get some sort of a layout. So something like that. And again, similar to what I did before in the chart, you go over here to properties and select don't move or size with cells. And this is like going to be my bucket, so I could just always pull a new shape from here and add it to the dashboard. Here in the icons, I already pre-selected icons, which is also very easy to do. Click on Insert, Illustration, Icons, and you can just search for whatever icons you like. You can either search, or you can go to categories. In this case, I took them from one called Commerce, this one. So they're relevant to the sales dashboard, so I took some of these. I also took some icons from the analytics part, which is also very similar. And also the icons itself, I clicked on one, clicked Control A to select all, and then change their color to the same one. But this will change pretty quickly, as you'll see. So now what I want to do basically is take one shape, take it to the dashboard, have it over here, and I want to add an icon. So for example, this would be quantity sold. So we can take quantity sold, like, I don't know, this one or maybe this one. Let's take this one, for example. Paste it over here. Now it doesn't really look very good blue on blue, so I'm just going to change it to a white color, like so. Okay, now I want to add the actual metric, so I'm going to add a text box. Insert, Illustration, Shape, text box. But what am I going to write here? So one option is to manually write, which I don't like to do. So what I will do is actually go over here and, for example, have a text box that will say quantity sold, which is the text over here, and well, I guess that would be the text box. You can just add it like this. Same trick, going over to the formula equals this, quantity sold, and I will have another text box which will be equal to one row below, so it gives me the value. So you see what happens when I do it within the sheet, it maintains the same reference. So I have to go over here and I always like to use the $sign. Okay. Doesn't like the formulas, so here you go. So now I have the text and I have the number itself. I want to remove all the shape fill, and so no fill here and no outline. So I just want just pure text. Take it over here, switch it also to a white color. Sorry. Quantity sold, and we don't need so much. And this as well. This is the number. And here it's, to your the discretion. You could put it to the right, to the left. Now I just want to change the size of the shape. And this could be also in the middle like this. But now you have basically an icon, and just and it's a pretty good option because now you can just duplicate this. So I can just take all these, say I have another, that was quantity sold. Before I was in E, now I want to be in F. And it does not remember the color, but the location and everything it does. And you may want to move it a bit here. Now I want the quantity sold, and I can of course take another icon. So for example, this could be quantity sold. Okay, and let's just create another one. Over here. Okay, and same trick, let's take G for example, profit. Reorganize the area. And let's say I don't like this icon, and let's say I just want another icon on the fly. So I could just put, let's just write profit, see if it gives me anything. So I could put this, for example. Give it a white color. And there you have it. You have 3 one-liner KPIs. Look very good, very nice. Now what I want to do is basically group them. So I'm going to select all 3 and group. And the last step is, as I showed you before, is to change this one. That would be very important here because these things tend to move and change, and if you don't do that, you are just going to regret it. Let's do the third one. Okay, so now if I change anything here, for any reason at all, those 3 metrics are not going to be harmed. So this is starting to look pretty nice. You can of course even group all 3 together now if you want, just so they never move. But this is how you can create, one-liner KPIs. We can already start building our dashboard, and we can put these KPIs, let's say, over here somewhere. Now what's nice about using pivot tables is you can use slicers and timelines. If you're not familiar with those are very powerful tools within the pivot table. You click on one pivot table, click on pivot table analyze, and you see here you have insert slicer, insert timeline. Go ahead and click insert slicer, and I can select a company name or a country or an item type or a supplier name. Let's keep it as let's say 4. Don't know if that'll be too much, but you get this. You get 4 slicers, and immediately what I'm going to do with them is the same thing I did with all of them. Don't move or size with cell. And I'm going to take those 4 slicers, Control X, over here to the dashboard, Control V. And I personally like to build the slicers all the way to the top, so that you can scroll down and still see and use the slicers. So we can move this about. Of course, it's up to you how big the slicers can be. I'm going to shrink them a bit. Let's say, oops, forgot about this one. So let's say yay high, because I do want some real estate for the other charts and everything. I like to freeze the row. Click that row number 7, freeze panes, and that way those slicers remain with me as I drag down if I have as much as I want. And these slicers, I like to connect them to multiple pivot tables. So you can't do it for all of them, but when you click on report connections, you see get this, shows you name and sheet of the pivot tables that can be connected. Now, as long as you use the same data source, you can use the same pivot. So I'm going to go ahead and click on all of these so they're connected to our 2 pivot tables. Okay. And what's nice is if I now select one of these, you see that the chart changes, but also the one-liners. So this is why these are very cool in my perspective. Now you can see, if you're not familiar with slicers, you're going to get a certain color when you can select and a certain color when you cannot select. And of course we can change those colors soon enough. What's also important to do, and I didn't do that, is right click on the pivot table, show pivot table, options, data, change this to none. What that does is that it forgets what's not relevant or not in the data. What pivot tables, the way they build it, they just remember all the selections. So if I now change the database completely, the slicers will always show me these if I didn't do that. And that selection affects everything that's within the same source. So if I go over here, that is by default selected to none as well. So I also want to add a timeline. Timeline is also very nice to use. Over here, pivot table analyze. After clicking one of the pivot tables, insert timeline, and it only gives you date columns as possible. Now sometimes you may not find any options. That just means that your database, your date column is not ready. It means it has values that are not really a date. Could be a text, could be something that looks like a date that you copied but not a date. So you always have to make sure that this column that you want to use as a timeline has a real date on it. So as before, report connections, right click, report connections, I want it connected to, and I'm going to Control Z that over here. And this one is a little bit more, yeah, you kind of need that space. So first of all, I can just extend the height. I think this one also requires the same thing. Don't move. So it remains the same. I'm just going to go ahead and extend our slicers so they're the same. So what's nice about the timeline, you can click here on that little triangle and switch between years, quarters, and days. And you can have more than one. So I'm going to have one for years. It's usually what I do. I'm going to have one for months. And now I can select a certain year, data will change. You can see it really in the chart, and you can see it here. I can select 1 month. I can select a number of months. I can select a year. I can switch to quarters if I want to. So there's a lot of possibilities here, and if you want to unclick, you just click on that. Same for those slicers. If you click here, it won't filter everything, but it will unfilter that specific slicer. So by doing so, this is like one of the most useful things to do when you want to create the dashboards, is to build the slicers and timelines affecting the pivot table. So we have those, we can put them here. Let's do another analysis. We want to see, for example, our most profitable or our least profitable products. So I'm going to copy the pivot table that I already have. And the reason I'm doing that is because when I do that, the slicers are automatically connected to that pivot table. So I won't have to do the same exercise of reconnecting everything. So I really recommend you do that. You don't have to do that, but I do recommend. I'm going to call this top X sellers. Or top sellers, let's say. And let's make a switch here. I don't care about the date anymore, and I don't care about the quantity sold, or you know what, this could be like our top sellers from a quantity perspective, and I want to put here the item name, and I want to sort by descending. Okay. So this is going to show me all the items, right? All X items. Let's say I just want to see my top. You could have 100, 200 items. I want to see only my top 5, let's say. But I also want to allow you to change that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add here in developer, insert, scroll bar. Okay, this is a scroll bar. It's a built-in. Right-click, properties, linked cell. Where is it? Sorry, I need to click it again. Linked cell would be J. Need to call it as is, so it needs to be pivots J2. Hope I got that right. And let's say the max would be 5, the minimum would be 0. If you want to test it, you gotta click here, remove design mode, and you see that as I change it, it changes the number. So I'm going to use that to basically dynamically pull a list of items. So what I want to do, I want to use offset. I'm going to have a header. This is the item name, and this is the quantity sold. So first I'm going to use offset. My reference, if you're not familiar with offset, offset will return a range. It could be a column, it could be a table, it could be a row, and you can also play with the reference, or where does it start. So I'm referencing this, which is the first item, Now rows is the number of rows I'm going to go down. I'm going to use this, which is my slider. I don't want to move columns, but I want to always return 5, meaning 5 lines, and 2, which is the width, which is the number of columns. And by default, you see it's returning. Let me change this one to a number. With a separator. So you see it's going to bring me wheelchair, but if I click on 1, then it will go down by 1 and return those numbers. So I can of course not limit this to a certain number as you saw, but that's just a very nice way of showing you the data. And what we could do, we could just take this and just create a chart like this. And you actually see that it is opposite of what I wanted. The top ones are on the bottom, and the smaller ones are on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another table to this table to sorting it out. So I'm going to add more rows below, take this over here, and now just replace that with that. There may be a better way to do that, but that's just the simple way I use. Replace the range, and now I got what I wanted. Instead of quantity sold equals top sellers. So this is like the dynamic, we call it dynamic data pool. And this is the actual chart data. Just merge that. And you see I'm controlling it over here, and things change. So now I can take this to the dashboard. This could be my second chart, and I can click here on design mode, click this over here, put it over here, not supposed to be part of the chart, sorry, like this. Okay, out of design mode. Let me zoom out for a second. Let's see if it works. Yeah, the annoying thing is that you can't change that. Okay, taking out design mode, and now we can test it. And you can see it's working. So I'm changing it. And by the way, you can also dynamically, what's nice about referencing a cell for the can't take this anymore. This could be like this, so we could probably have like 6 one-liner KPIs or something like that, and then get into the charts. What's nice about this is that you can, over here, instead of top sellers, you could say, and here I'm using the double quotations, top sellers, and let's say 1 through 1, plus 4. Let's see if it gives me what I got, what I wanted. No, why not? So I'm referencing the same cell. It should be J2. So top sellers 1 through 5 goes over here, and sorry, this should be J2 plus 1 through J2 plus 5. Okay, so this is top cells 1 through 5, this is 1, 2 through 6, and this is how you can dynamically change the header, which is pretty nice. And let's talk about the layout for some of these. So I can now take the and of course, how could I forget? Don't move or miss or size the cell, otherwise it will be ruined. Now continue with the layout of the dashboard. I'm going to move the slicers over here to the end of the so-called sheet area, and I want to add another size, another shape, sorry. This could be something like this, and here this could be like a company logo or something like that. Let's take, want to just use that what I already have here. So I'm going to call this sales dashboard. Sales dashboard. Alright, you don't want me to use that? Fine, I won't use it. I'll just enter another call that sales dashboard. No harm in showing you again how to do that. Shape fill, no fill. Shape outline, no outline. Text like this. Make it bigger. Now this could be something like this. You could have a company logo over here, or in our case, we can just use another icon. Let's see what we have for company. Yeah, let's use that, or let's use, well, we're in the medical world, so let's look for something like that. Yeah, I think that could be good for our logo. Get that. White or grayish like this maybe, or yeah, that looks pretty cool. Alright, so this could be our sales dashboard with our company logo. I'm gonna group those three, and as you can imagine, please don't move. So cool. So now we have the slicers, we have a logo. This is starting to look like a dashboard. Let's add a few more one-liner KPIs. So we have the average of profit that I want to use. So let's take this one, get it over here, and ungroup it. This should be average of profit. And this should be, sorry, I forgot that this does not work well with that reference, so that. Average of profit. Let's change the text so it doesn't take so much space. AVG, we all know what AVG means, and we're okay. So this is the average, we can call it average item profit. Okay, and we can replace the icon. We could take that for this one. Oh, we used it already, sorry. Let's just add another icon in that case. So we could use something like this. And that gives us another average item profit. And of course, if you change things, this number should change, which is nice. And you see that these also change. Oh, good to see. Important to mention. I need to take out the grand total from here because we just saw that, and that's not something I want to see. So, yeah. Okay, if there's nothing, there's nothing, because this is specific combination only sold 4 items. All right. So we have the average item profit. What else can we pull from the database that's interesting? We can take the percentage of profit. We know the profit in units, we know the profits, but we don't know the percentage. So we can actually even calculate it here. Percentage of profit. This could be this divided by this. So it's 8% profit. And we can take all this, move it over here, and age I, white, this is going to be okay. And let's add another icon. Let's try and see what percentage has. Percent. Go back to money. We could use this. Yeah. So you see it's starting to look like something of a dashboard. We can also add a nice heat map, it's called. So to do that, we can't, I mean, what we need to do, we need to, again, create another pivot table. is a charts. I want to add a few more charts here. So we have a nice looking dashboard with a few more KPIs. Here I want to add a chart to show me the breakdown of our customers. So I'm going to put the company name here, sort it, and this would be sort of a customer analysis, let's call it. So there are many options here. For example, let's use a pie chart, which is the classic, right? You have the pie chart, shows you each customer how much they take, and you can of course add the data labels. Put the data labels outside if you want to add the percentage as well, so you see how much they take out of the slice. That's a very quick dashboard. It could be over here. I'm using a laptop, so that's the end of my screen. So people that use home screen probably can see more. But this is where I like to freeze the panes, because I can just scroll down and keep selecting. So if I want to see, if I had now I have 3 customers in the US, so it shows me the breakdown within the US. So within the US, this customer is 39%, which is a nice view. Let's add also something kind of similar, but just a different perspective. Item type, analysis, and 2 things I forgot to do. Number 1, it is linked, alright, but I forgot to, where is it? Forgot to do this, my favorite thing. Once I do that, I'm relaxed. So in the item type analysis, as you can imagine, all I want to do is switch between company name and item type. And this, because we have more types, we may want to use a different layout. Let's try using something different that we can't do automatically. I want to add. This could also be okay, like showing you the Pareto. But let's say I wanted to add a tree map, so you get this notification that it doesn't work with a pivot table. So I'm just going to create another table. Item type, profit, and I'm just going to reference this. I have 20, I think, so 22. So yeah, I get this, and now hopefully I can add the chart that I wanted. It could be too much to be properly visible. Sometimes look at other charts, try to see if something looks, map doesn't mean anything. Well, we could always go back to the good old columns. So we could just do it this way, and the legend on the bottom? I don't know. Maybe it should be on the right. Okay, yeah, that looks better. So, I mean, this is kind of overwhelming, but maybe that's okay. Sorry. Chart title doesn't let me do it. Alright, so this could be an item type analysis. So this shows you the overall. Oops, too much. Okay. So this could show you like the bigger types that you're using, and if you drill down into certain areas. Ooh, look at that! I gotta get rid of that grand total. I gotta get rid of that grand total. Keeps messing up my charts. All right. So when you filter down, actually, it does look pretty good. We can, although we have a lot of zeros, which looks kind of ugly. We could also do something else instead of that. We could just say if Q5 is greater than 0, Q5, otherwise 0. I hope this will look a bit better. Let's see if that improves it. I'm gonna drag it. Yeah, still doesn't look as good. But yeah, that's a nice chart that you can use. Looks like we can add two more one-liner KPIs here, and possibly another chart or two, or we can also change the layout so it fits better. I have the sales and profit. Let's add the sales in dollars and the cost next to each other. That could be our last chart. That's the quantity sold in units, and I want the quantity sold in dollars and the cost next to each other. Change the format to accounting. Change the format to accounting. And this would be sales cost. This would be sales in dollars. I'm going to go ahead and change that so it's clear. Sales units. Okay. And let's just add another classic chart. Sold quantity. Add that space so we don't have the sum of. Add that space, sum of. Get rid of that legend to the bottom. Add the chart title. There you go. You are done. Add that over here. Spread that out till the end. Okay. Drag it a bit so they're all the same. Okay, so we have the quantity sold, quantity, and the cost. Here is the total with the profit. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Now we just need to fix the design a bit because it does look, I want it to look like this with the colors that we created and everything. So what we're going to do And we almost forgot. We almost forgot not to move. Please do not move. Let's go ahead and change. I'm going to zoom out a bit. I want this to have a better layout, so I'm going to send it to front. I'm going to remove the shape fill. Oh god. Remove the outline. So it's basically naked. Go back here to my layout. Take my layout over here. And cover it so we have something. Send that to the back. Okay. We don't see anything because we have to change the colors here to white. This could be greenish, let's say, and also white. Yeah, I kind of like the green in that, so I'm going to go ahead and change that to green as well. Green, there you go. That's the green. Let's also have this in green. I am missing a letter. Sales dashboard. Alright, so we got the headers in green. So now this looks better than this one. I hope you agree. So we're going to apply the same trick. Chart design. No, thank you. No shape fill. No shape outline. Do it for all of them. Get them naked. Can you do it for all? No. Thought not. This could be a bit more complicated with the colors, but we'll see how it looks. Got that. I want to group them. So the chart has its own background. Get yourself to the back. Thank you. All right. So we'll use those, and we'll use a combination of white and green to mix it up a bit. And I would just take out these. And let me just add a data label. And it's just clearer that way. Yeah, I like it that way. I do see that this is a bit extending over. So maybe we could just shrink it a bit. Move it a bit. Get that. Yeah, that is looking better. Same thing for that one. Go to the back. Sorry. Need to extend it a bit. This one also we need to change. Gonna kind of keep the lines here because there's a lot of data here. It's hard to see because adding data label will probably not be a good idea. There's too many data points. It'll be too messy. Yeah. So something like that. Let's see how it looks if I get rid of the rows. Yeah, it looks better. could just add, let's see how it looks if I add. That looks pretty bad if there's a lot of years, but if you select 1 year, that looks okay. Yeah, let's leave it like that. Next we gotta handle this thing, right? Let's go to the design. First of all, let's take this one a bit. This can also be changed. Let's see if it's just a matter of forget how to do that. Properties probably, yeah, back color. Yeah, something like that. So this is looking better. I hope you agree. And let's just group them. You know what, I'll group together with that one. Hope that doesn't mess it up. Yeah, it does. Just group those. Group those. Go back to the layout. Set to the back. Okay. Let's get rid of those lines. Let's have that header in green. That is in white. Yeah, I need to add that as white as well. And let's go ahead and add values in this case and color them in white.
Okay, now I want to improve a bit the layout of the last chart over here. I'm going to go ahead and take out the legend because I don't need it anymore. You see it, the legend is built into this. So back to this, I'm going to grab that one and send it to the back. Just change the dimensions a bit so it fits. Okay, just change the text here, item to green. Yeah, so let's just move this one a bit so it's on the same level. Okay, and of course let's group. And in properties, don't move. Okay, so I have the charts, they're looking okay. Next I thought I would just add something nice, which is taking the flags of the countries and adding some sort of a metric next to them. That always looks kind of nice. So I just took a circle flag of each country, and we can just add just a quick input as an example. So we can add like total sales per country. So I'm going to take this one, total sales per country. Don't need the date anymore. I do need the country, and I just want basically this value. So let's go ahead and create those text boxes. That's going to be equal US so this is going to be 7. Okay. And we need this one to be 6 and this one to be 5. And let's go ahead and change the format. No fill, no outline, and I'm gonna go ahead and add the area like so. Sent to back. Let's decrease a bit the size of this one. Canada is 515. Okay, grow this a bit, yeah, so this maybe just move this a bit, add just another one. Total sales. Put that over here. Okay. And of course this only works if you don't have too many countries. If you have too many countries, you're going to run out of room. But this is kind of nice, of course, if I only select one country. Oops, I can see now that I made a mistake. 6 and 5. How is that possible? Oh, because I have the grand total again. So that's why it's always good to check what you did. So Brazil's looking okay. Canada. Okay. I see. So what I need to do is actually add another column that would be static. This would be like this. And if error, no. And this is very useful to reference pivot tables. It does it automatically. See, I just hovered over the pivot table. It automatically gives me the pivot table, and I can also play with one of the row labels, in this case country Brazil. I replaced it with the actual country and added an if error, because when I filter, you see now it's going to be blank. So now let's go ahead and change. Brazil should be AE5. Canada should be AE6. And US should be AE7. And for some darn reason, it does not remember doesn't allow me. Okay, there it is. Okay, so now this is working properly. Brazil, Canada, and the US, and of course if you change other things it does show you. So that's kind of a nice layout if you want to see your total sales in a visual. So we got our dashboard looking very good, very well. The next part that I want to change is the slicers. You want to make sure the slicers also match your layout. So when you go to the slicer, click it once, you have all these custom fitted options. Maybe one of these can help us, but I can use that as a reference, or this one. I think this one's pretty close. What I'm going to do, I'm going to say duplicate and call this dashboard or sales dashboard. And it gives me the ability to change the entire slicer. So for example, I can take out the borders, and if I select that one, then I can again just see how it looks and start clicking on modify. So the whole slicer, I can change the fill to my color. See how it looks. If I don't like it how it looks, I can of course play with it. I think I used this one. Yeah. And of course I want to change also the font of the header. No, not like that. Not the fill, sorry, the text. Okay, and this I can leave. It looks very good. So this matches now the colors. I'm gonna go ahead and actually change the header colors to green, which I used. Sorry, not the whole slicer. That one. And what's nice is now I can just select all the slicers, click on that, and boom, that changes. So that's a very nice tip that I have for you, that just to use custom slicers and then you can just change it. Same for this one, for the timelines. You can first of all switch to this one, which is pretty similar. Let's create a duplicate and call this sales dashboard timeline. And let's go ahead and change the entire format to our color. See how it looks. Okay, gives it a nice color. And let's modify the header. And I think that's good enough. Gives it a nice dark color. Of course, you can modify it as you wish. So, for example, you can change that, see what it does. Gives it a white color. So, yeah, I think now this looks like it's the same design. Next, what we can do is just to cover all of these, you could just, and you see I just did it here just added another shape with a different color just to see how it looks side by side. I think it looks pretty good. Let's take that over here, and we can just cover. Actually, you know what? We may want to use not a rectangle shape, but a square shape. Because I do want to cover all the angles here. So let's say we just enlarge this a bit, and of course send to the back. Okay, and I think that gives it a nice layout. Just gonna extend it a bit so it's the entire screen. Okay. So yeah, it has its own background now. And you know what? We can even maybe just slightly move everything here. And we can just start the freezing of the panes from here. And the reason you see this line is because I have something hidden here. Yeah, okay, so now you see it as expected. See, I didn't select this one to not move, and it just moved on me. Okay. So I think this is looking pretty good. You got your slicers and your timelines, you got your one-liners, you got your nice charts. This dashboard is looking like it's supposed to. So thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, please hit that subscribe button, click on the like, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.